Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Joining me today is Mustafa Allawi. Mustafa is a film director and the founder of Hazen, a creative agency that helps businesses showcase their brand through aesthetic, thought-provoking promotional videos and documentaries. He has most notably covered the recent Sydney appearance of acclaimed film director James Cameron and the Australian tour of world-renowned comedian Bassem Youssef. Hazen's Out of Bounds series is also an incredible offering that documents the world of everyday people in Australia and their authentic stories. I'll leave a link to all of these in the description for this podcast. This is a great conversation touching upon the ideas of the creative process, separating business from art, and the importance of finding your unique vision to tell stories. Mustafa is as humble as he is creatively gifted, and these are the kind of conversations that I always have a joy in sharing. As always, I thank all of you guys for your support. If you are new to the podcast, kindly consider subscribing. If you are already subscribed, kindly leave us a comment and a like. Your engagement with my videos is the only thing that helps this channel grow. Please also check out all of our short form content on all of our social media platforms. Every highlight from this conversation and from all of my past episodes is going to be up there, so do check that out. But anyways, without further ado, this is my conversation with Mustafa Allawi in The Gap.
Yeah, I was working yesterday in the office.
Yeah? Were you covering any event or?
No, we don't usually cover much events, but no one was in the office usually. It's the days that I catch up. I'm sure you're the same.
Yeah.
When it comes to your full-time job and weekends.
It's like, for me, it's like if I'm not doing this,
Yeah.
or if I'm not at work, I'm full-time at home. Like I've got like my missus here,
Yeah.
I've got 2 kids. Like it's pretty full on.
I can imagine. Your kids are young, right? So
I've got a 4-year-old and I've got a 1-year-old.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh my God, 1-year-old.
Yeah, 1-year-old.
Tough.
Yeah. Two girls.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So it's like ladies in the house. I'm completely outnumbered.
Oh man, I know. My brother has also two girls.
Yeah.
I think 5 and 2 as well.
Yeah.
And it's a blessing, but of course it's also a lot of work.
Like I always wanted girls.
Yeah.
I love girls.
That's good.
Yeah, I always wanted girls. Like because I feel the relationship between fathers and daughters, it's much more special.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it is.
Boys tend to be a little more rowdier.
Yeah.
You know?
Always,
So girls are more affectionate, they're more loving. So yeah, I always wanted girls.
Inshallah.
Right. I couldn't get an idea of like exactly where you're from.
Yeah.
So I guess that would be the best place to start, I guess.
For sure.
Right, Mustafa? So just start us off with where you're from, what your family background is, how did you end up in Australia?
Yeah, good question. So born in Iraq, from Baghdad,
Okay.
and spent most of my childhood there for like 10 years. And after the 2003 war, where America came in, my family had to flee. So we kind of went through Syria, Jordan, through the borders, and we were immigrants for like 5 years, with no land really, like just kind of living in between. And then we had the choice as migrants to either go to Sweden or come to Australia. Because at that time, during like 2012-13, they were intaking immigrants. So then obviously, because the weather is better, plus it's English is easier than Sweden,
Of course.
we chose to come here. And I'm one of the very lucky people, of course, to have made it here.
Yeah.
Because it just provides more opportunity. And I have my parents to thank because they wanted to provide us with a better life.
Yeah.
So yeah, been here since, and of course I plan to go back, but that's where I come from.
Have you ever been back since you came here?
No, not back to Baghdad, but inshallah one day, of course. My dad and my mom, they always go back. And it's interesting because, of course, they're older people and they can't really let go of their childhood.
Of
I
course.
can imagine. With us, we can kind of move on because our brain is still modular. But yeah, we'll definitely go back one day.
Do you have any recollections of your time when you were in Iraq? I mean,
Yeah.
you were 10. I mean,
Yeah.
you would have some
Lot of
core memories down there.
Of course. I mean, yeah, I'm sure you know your background is where you're from.
I'm from Pakistan.
So we're very similar in terms of households, in terms of family oriented.
Yeah.
We lived in just like similar to a lot of people, in a big house with all the family, all the cousins, all the the uncles, the grandma, the grandpa. We grew up together.
Yeah.
So obviously being separated from that, it puts you in a very uncomfortable, uneasy position. But again, as I told you, very lucky to have spent those 10 years because now it's still within me, those kind of values. So it doesn't really go away.
Yeah.
And I try to carry it through to here as well.
Yeah, and I'm sure your parents like coming in. I have a few Iraqi friends. Like
nice.
a few of my co-workers have been people who are from Iraq.
Yeah.
There's a colleague of mine who was a colleague, but now he's a really nice personal friend of mine as well.
Nice.
I actually did an episode with him,
Wow.
and he had a similar story that he was in Iraq, in Baghdad, and he was around the same age as you.
Beautiful.
And his dad was in the army. So during that time when America came in and they had to flee, and basically they came in. So he told me some stories, and it's always tough because, especially for the parents, like you said, like we're young, we're still when we come over here, we still have that capacity to turn into the individuals that we are now, that we eventually grow into. But for your parents to have their whole life completely uprooted,
crazy,
leaving behind family and friends and everything you've ever known, and just trying to settle yourself in a completely foreign land for the sake of your children and their future. It's something you can't even imagine.
It's unimaginable, really. Like, imagine, how old are you now?
I'm 33.
33. I'm 27. Like, imagine us in 10 years from now. Something happens in Australia and we have to go to like a no man's land with a new language, let's say an Asian country or a Russian country. Yeah. It's crazy.
On top of which that you do not have any stable source of income over there. Like everything you've ever known, you start from zero.
That's right. My dad was a businessman and he goes back to Iraq because he has a business over there, and we both have businesses here and careers, and just leaving that, it's tough. But again, I think we're very lucky to be here.
So he's a businessman. What does he do?
So I learned a lot from him, and I think I tried to do as much from him. He's got a whole shopping center in Iraq where he imports a lot of stuff and goods from like Turkey, China, and different countries in the world. Basically homeware, kitchenware, decor, that kind of stuff.
That kind of I can imagine, like those fundamentals of doing business and doing something for yourself. That is where it comes into you.
Absolutely. And I never knew it. I think your parents are the most biggest influence on you, and you never know. Like it's within you, and then you see it, and I'm sure you mimic your father and mother.
The older I'm getting, I'm starting to realize a lot of the things that might not have made sense when you're young. That your parents did or why they did. But as you get older, it starts making sense.
Correct.
And you start thinking that, they must have been going through this internally. This must have been the anguish that they were facing, the internal struggle that they must have been facing. So it gives you a whole appreciation for the kind of life that they have been able to provide for you, despite of the challenges that they faced. And it also endears the relationship with your parents, I believe. Like like when you're young, you feel very close to your parents. You love them, obviously, right? But you once you get older and you start facing the challenges of life for your own self, then that endearment grows a little bit deeper with your parents, because you realize that what they might have gone through.
Absolutely. I'm sure you feel that as a father right now, as with a father, your little kids.
Mate, every other day, like there's something new that I learned.
You discover?
I discovered. Like it's amazing.
And you really related back to your parents and how they felt.
What I am relating is that a lot of things that would have happened in my childhood. Like I'm one of 3 siblings. And I'm the middle child, right? So a lot of things that may have happened in my childhood that may have shaped my personality in some way. Now as a parent, I realize that you like there is one of the things that I'm struggling with now is that now that I have 2 kids, you have to separate you have to distribute the attention between the two of them, right? And it's a very tricky balance to maintain. It's a very tricky balance to maintain, because on the one hand you've got your first child who's so used to being the center of attention for 4 years, and now suddenly they have to share that attention with somebody else. But on the other hand, you've got the younger child who's only come into this world, and they need the attention, right? That's what I'm struggling with these days. Okay, so you came to Australia around the time when you're 10, right?
Last 16, sorry. Because I lived in 5 years in Jordan, so about teenager. I did like two years of high school here. Okay, so pretty much your personality was fully formed by the time you arrived in Australia. Right? So as a teenager, what was the culture shock like coming into Australia? Yeah, great question. Again, a lot of people go through it, but when you're a teenager at the age of 15, 16, you're still figuring yourself out.
Yeah, of course.
So it's kind of an in-between. And the merge of cultures, similar to the name In The Gap, and when you told me the song that you've got inspiration from, it's mixing 2 worlds, and you're trying to get the best of both worlds. So I grew up, and the reason why my English it wasn't too bad when I came here is because I grew up watching a lot of movies. That's kind of where my inspiration comes, where
Yes.
my passion comes. Australia is very different to like American culture, right?
Yes.
And movies of culture.
Yes.
So went to like an intensive English center in the beginning, and then went into year 10, year 11. But the most beautiful thing about this country was just how multicultural it is, and I think that was a shock for me, but also like a good thing, because I've never like been with so many different cultures in one class or seen different people. Like it's always been Arab people around me, and a lot of my challenges were changed and were challenged in terms of like my perception on other people. It's hard, you know. It's like I've never seen an Asian person before. I've never seen African person before. But then now you're spending time with them. So I think it is a beautiful thing, merging the cultures. It is shocking, but you kind of adapt to it and you become your own individual. And I think that's what I'm so appreciative of, is that not many people get the chance to grow up in two different cultures. When you do that, you just become extremely unique. And you have to celebrate that. Yeah.
And before coming into Australia, I never had the opportunity to live anywhere else.
That's right.
outside of Pakistan. So that is like
Huge.
that. Your culture and your tradition is basically what you know your entire life. And once you come out, there are a lot of things that you face that challenge your perceptions about how you view life.
Huge.
You know, completely. And there are a lot of things that you're taught as a child, even as part of your family, that you start challenging. You know, that okay, maybe the world isn't the way that we have been taught the way that it is.
Absolutely.
You know? And more every day, like the more I talk to people, the more I get to work with people, it's becoming more evident that at the end of the day, everybody's just trying to make a way for themselves.
That's right.
In this world, especially in a place like Australia. Like this is in the truest sense, it's an immigrant-backed country. Like it's the entire history of it. If you I mean the Aboriginal history and the First Nations history is what the true history of Australia is. But if you look beyond the colonization and ever since then to present day Australia, the modern history of Australia, it has been backed. It has been created on the backs of immigrants. And the immigrant narrative in there is extremely important to understand, because every immigrant who comes in here, they bring in their own piece of history, their own piece of culture and background, and that just ties into the fabric of the society that we live in today.
It does. It's a beautiful mirage, and you're absolutely right. It's different in most countries because we're such an island, huge island, and it's beautiful.
I feel there is an opportunity in there for Australia to become kind of like a role model for the rest of the world on how. Because the way that we're progressing with globalization and everything, if you look at it, the way Australia is growing, that is the way the entire world is going to grow at some point in the future. Because the way people and cultures and races are merging together, that's how in like 150 years time, 200 years time, that is how the whole world is going to be. Like everybody's going to be everywhere. Right? And you're going to have every culture everywhere. Right? So in that, Australia has the opportunity to become either a role model or become a warning. You know, that how do you want to create a thriving society that has so many different opinions, so many different backgrounds.
It's a great point. I think we're heading in the right direction, though. In my experience so far.
I think so. I think so. And one of the things that I'm trying to achieve with this podcast is to get as many different voices from as many different corners as possible to try and understand that, okay, what's your story? Here's my story. What's yours?
And find the relatability. And that's what I mentioned to you. It's like when I saw your podcast and when you reached out, which I appreciate, it's different to others, and it tells a very important story that relates to people.
Exactly.
And it's in the gap, and it's exploring that story between people. You know, it's incredible.
Ever since I've started doing this, I've had a lot of feedback from people saying that your episodes are too long.
All right.
You know, people have said that it's over an hour long. On average, my episodes are like beyond 1 hour, right? And people say that you're not going to get the views, you're not going to get the viewership, you're not going to get the following that way, and people don't have the time to listen to an hour-long conversation. But this is a point that I keep on emphasizing, that not every conversation that is worth having can be summed up in 60 seconds.
Of course.
You know,
very hard.
And especially the ones that are the tough conversations. Especially the conversations that are needed to develop a level of empathy between people in order to understand somebody and their story. You can't sum that up in a 60-second TikTok, right?
Of course, impossible.
So you need to put that time in to actually sit down and understand and have a human conversation with a person. You know, to try and understand what their story is.
Absolutely. And look, man, people have time to watch other podcasts that are that kind of length, and it's just what they find entertaining or relatable and learning. So
I'm not really bothered by that. Like I'm like, the people who do get it, they'll find me.
They'll find you and they'll watch it. Exactly.
They'll watch it.
That's
right?
the audience. Yeah.
That's the audience, and those are the people that I'm actually making this for.
Correct. Yeah.
You know?
And you still do the 60-second advertising.
Yeah.
Shorts, which is good. It's good for attention.
Yeah. Let's see. I always believe that my podcast is only as good as the guest is.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I'm just an accessory.
Yeah.
I'm just part of the furniture.
You're the backbone, man. No.
Yeah. It's as good as the story that I'm bringing to the episode is.
Yeah. Appreciate that.
So coming back to your story. Okay.
Yes,
so now you're 16. You've spent high school in Australia, right?
Yeah.
Were you always inclined towards doing something in art? Were you always somebody who was creative?
Of course not. I mean, you never know that. And had I grown in a different country that doesn't foster creativity, I think it would have been a lot more difficult. But right after high school, I went into medical science because I wanted to, follow the footpath and of making my parents proud, like anyone else.
Yeah, of course.
And I hated it. I think within me, I always wanted to do something in film. And I think within a year doing medical science in UNSW, there's something in me got kind of snapped. I was like, either I can follow what I really want to do, which was when I thought about it, I liked film, and in high school I liked doing film projects as much as I can.
Yeah.
Like even within English subjects, math subject, if I can do something within film, I try to do it. So then I quit, and then I jumped into UTS and did that degree there for 3 years. And it was a big shock to the family, of course, and like trying to convince the family. I'm sure a lot of people go through that. But at the end of the day, I think the biggest thing I learned is you just have to sympathize with their perspective. They just want you to be happy and they want the best for you. And once you communicate to them that, hey, look, this career path in Australia is actually not bad. You can make money, you can create something good. Had it been in a different country like Iraq, probably going to be way more difficult because there's not as much support. Yeah, market's not as much there. So yeah, that's what I did, and it was the best decision I could have made. Yeah,
I find this so relatable. Like I kind of went down the similar path. Like when you're growing up in a society like ours, it's I would say lack of opportunity or lack of options.
Yeah.
Is that like when you're growing up in Pakistan? Basically, because the competition for jobs and livelihood is so fierce.
Correct.
In a population as big as that.
Yeah.
In a middle income country like that, you basically just have a few options that you can go off of. Right?
Yeah.
Engineer, doctor, lawyer. All the traditional pathways, right? Or you start a business. So in that, becoming a creative is something very risky that not a lot of people would approve of. And even for your own self, you kind of doubt yourself that, okay, it's something that I want to do, but is it something that I can actually turn into a career or not?
Correct.
Like, I don't want to be miserable for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Right. I'm somebody who always had that creative spark as well.
I can see it.
I actually wanted to do film.
Wow, really?
Yeah, for the longest time. Yeah. I just did not have the opportunity for it. Like there's no credible film school in Pakistan.
Yeah, right.
Plus, Pakistan used to have in the past a tradition of cinema.
You guys have amazing cinema.
We did.
Yeah.
But then it declined.
Right.
Because of a lot of geopolitical activities that went on, the Afghan war and everything, the radicalization, Islamization, a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
So that kind of eroded that tradition. But the entire Indian subcontinent, I mean, Bollywood. I mean, that's the mother of all cinema,
It is,
So Pakistan also had a good cinema tradition. It's coming back, thankfully. But I did not have any opportunity to pursue a degree like that.
Of course.
But what I did was that throughout my school, throughout university, I did try to keep that creative side alive. I worked on stage.
Nice, really.
When every chance I got, whatever little chance I could get, right?
Any kind of job.
Any kind of thing that I could do, right? Like it was, by all means, it was like very mediocre, like very low quality, very low cost production. But whatever I could, I just used it as an outlet to keep going, right?
Yeah.
Even this is kind of like it's an outlet.
Yeah.
For that creative spark.
Wow.
I did think about transitioning to film at some point, but I felt that at that point I was too far invested in engineering.
Because you're 27 when you came here, right?
I was 27 when I came in.
Wow.
And by that point, I was already married at that point.
Yeah.
Right. So that would have been a huge gamble.
Yeah.
Completely. Plus, the thing is when you I believe engineering is a very noble profession.
Yeah, it is.
I that's a whole different conversation, but I've actually discovered God through science.
Wow.
Through engineering.
Really?
Like I can talk about that in a completely different conversation. But the thing is, engineering pays really well.
Yeah, it does. It does.
you kind of get used to the paycheck.
Of course. Yeah.
So
But would you say if you came here when you were 17, would you have taken the gamble with like
I
less
would
risk?
have.
You would have.
I reckon I
Yeah.
would have.
Yeah.
I think I would have.
Yeah,
I
because
think
you
I
wouldn't be
would
too deep in.
Yeah. You know,
Wow.
the thing is with filmmaking, like
Yeah.
you said, you watched a lot of, you grew up watching
Yeah.
a lot of films, right? I
I
was
did.
the same. I grew up watching a lot of film, a lot of animation
Yeah.
when I was young.
Yeah.
That's where like my English, that's where that
Yeah.
developed from. I was
Beautiful.
watching cartoons day and night. Like,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that's where I picked up a lot of
Dialect
a lot
and-
of dialect, the slang, the terms and everything, you know.
Yeah.
That's how I actually understood American pop culture.
Yeah. That's right.
That's where I picked that up from, and then
Beautiful.
when I went to university, I was fortunate enough that I was amongst a group of friends who watched good
Yeah.
cinema.
Yeah.
You know, not just the
Any
not,
movie,
yeah, not
blockbusters.
not just blockbusters or anything.
Yeah.
You know, but people who actually watch good movies.
Yeah.
So that is why that is where I got exposed to good films, good music, and that's
Yeah.
where I think I developed an aesthetic for what good film is.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And I gained a huge appreciation for it.
Wow.
I was actually going to mention this to you.
Tell me.
I saw obviously your page,
Yeah.
Hazen's page.
Yeah.
The videos that you've done with Bassem, for
Yeah.
example, right?
Yeah.
I think that's your magnum opus at the moment.
Yeah. It's
You
not
know?
bad. Yeah. It's a good doco.
It's the best one that you've done.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I think so. Yeah.
So one thing that I'm the kind of person who, whenever I see a movie or I see a production or anything, right, I like to dissect it.
Correct.
It's something I don't do on purpose.
Yeah.
It's just the way my mind works.
Nice.
Right. I dissect it. Okay.
What'd you analyze?
Yeah. Like, okay, they've used this shot. They've used a close up here. They've
Yeah.
used a wider angle here. They've used this color here. They've used that color over there.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, just want to just say that it's very beautifully done.
Appreciate it.
You know, the way you've played with the lights there,
Yeah.
the way you've played with the color grading over there,
Yeah.
and considering somebody who does editing now for
Yeah.
this, I can't imagine the number of hours that must have gone into
I
produce
appreciate
that 4 minute
Yeah.
4 minute clip.
Thank you.
Awesome.
It's a team effort at the end of the day. I didn't even do the color grading. It was Cristobal, who's an incredible person I work with. But I know what you mean about you'd always hoped that your next project continues to become your magnum opus. I think the last time I heard that was when I was looking into, I watched Oppenheimer 5 times. And I also think like that's Christopher Nolan's magnum opus. But I think like his next movie is probably going to be even better and better.
I haven't seen Oppenheimer yet.
It's really good, bro. It's
Really?
really good, yeah.
Is
Watch
it?
it 5 times in
Really?
like 5 different cinemas.
I mean,
Yeah, it's really good. His best movie.
is it?
Yeah.
It would be really difficult to
Top.
top Interstellar.
Yeah, I think it did. It's more realistic. I think what I love about it is just it's so well thought out. Everything. Interstellar is beautiful, and I thought it was one of the best as well.
I went out to see Dunkirk the day it
Dunkirk
opened.
was fun. Yeah.
I went out to see Dunkirk the way it
Yeah.
opened. The funny thing about Dunkirk was
Yeah.
the first time I saw it, it disappointed me.
Yeah. Really.
You know why?
Did
Because-
you wanted to feel more? What is?
Because when I went in to watch Dunkirk,
Yeah.
I wanted. That's my fault.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
that's
my
fine.
fault. I wanted to experience something like The Dark Knight. I
Yeah.
wanted to experience something like Interstellar.
Yeah.
Like
couldn't get it.
That's not what Dunkirk was about.
It's different. Yeah.
I saw it in the cinema. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
Then after a few months, I went back. I watched it again at home
Yeah.
by myself.
And you
I
analyzed
viewed
it?
and then I analyzed it.
It's beautiful.
I realized that okay, I see what he was trying to do.
Yeah.
He wasn't trying to tell a story in particular.
Yeah.
He just wanted to create the atmosphere of what Dunkirk actually felt like.
Yeah.
And he just wanted to put you as a viewer in the middle of it.
Yeah.
That if
Yeah.
you were standing at the beach
That's how it feels.
that day, that is how you would feel. That is what you would hear. That is
Yeah.
what you would see. That is what the emotions of the people were
Yeah.
around you. And I got that.
Yeah. It's like a documentary almost.
It's
And
almost
the
like
three stories.
it's almost like a documentary.
Yeah.
I recently watched All Quiet on the Western Front.
Yeah. How good was it?
What a beautiful movie!
Yeah.
I think
Incredible.
I think it rates as one of the best war films I've ever
I
seen.
think so.
I would
So
put it up there.
realistic.
I would put it up there with Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, I think so. I think it
For
was
sure.
better than 1917 even. I love 1917. Have you seen it?
I've seen 1917 was very narrow in its scope.
Yeah.
if you understand.
Yeah, it was just
It was just about these
Story.
two guys
Yeah.
who were just going on trying to deliver a message or something.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think,
to the-
and that was it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I think what stood out about 1917 was the continuous shot.
yeah.
That,
Roger
that,
Deakins.
that was the main thing
Yeah.
about how they pulled that off.
One shot.
But All Quiet on the Western Front I liked for two reasons. One was that we have never had a World War movie that is being told from the German perspective.
Yeah.
I loved that.
How good?
How good.
Oh my god! Because they're normal people. Like the soldiers are. They're not Hitler.
You know, you watch All Quiet on the Western
Yeah.
Front, and suddenly
You feel sympathy.
Germans are humanized.
Yeah, and they are, and they were.
I loved that.
Of course. It's the same thing when you, man. It's such an interesting perspective because in the future, my goal is to make movies about my country, Iraq, and it's the same thing. Like from an outsider perspective, let's say America, the way they viewed Iraq back then, 2003. Before that, Saddam Hussein, nuclear weapons. Like, oh my God, these guys are the evil bastards.
Exactly.
But man, like one man's mistakes or whatever doesn't equate to everyone else's.
Or just look at what's going on in the world of the Middle East.
Yeah,
today,
in general,
with Israel and Palestine.
Israel, ISIS, everything.
I think the issue of Palestine has never been as humanized as the way as it is now.
Absolutely.
And the reason for that is the footage that is coming out.
Yeah, it's communication.
Palestine. That is the only reason, because what we're seeing now, it's not something that's only happening right now. It's something that's been happening ever since.
And we know it.
But
the world hasn't seen it before.
Exactly. Yeah. But now, because it's out there, the footage is out there.
Starting to awaken.
Exactly. Yeah. And now people are, and now what I love is that the conversation has moved past beyond Palestine itself. And now people are starting to wonder, hang on, if you've been lying to us about this, what else have you have been lying to us about?
100%.
Have you lied to us about Iraq?
Yeah.
Have you lied to us about Afghanistan?
Of course.
Have you lied to us about Muslims in general?
Of course.
Yeah. And I love the fact that people are now actually once again humanizing Muslims the way that has not been done since 2002.
Dude, 100%. And journalism, I think, is much better now because it's being done by real people. There's no, media outlet,
There's no gatekeeping.
Yeah, there's no gatekeeping. And I think that's one of the good things of social media. One of the good things. It's crazy. It's crazy seeing everything unfold. And we work with a lot of, like our clients, a lot of them are the charity space. A lot of them are from like the community. And everyone's been affected by it. So it's crazy.
Right. Yeah. So do you have a large family?
Just a brother, and he's got the two. He's actually calling me now because we're going to have lunch at 2, which we have time. Yeah. And my mom is here, my father is here. We have a huge, obviously, cousins and uncles that are all spread across the world, sadly. Like a lot in America, Sweden, UK, Turkey, Iraq, Jordan. Yeah. And it's sad, but that's reality.
I think you can relate to this feeling as well. Like this is another feeling I have, that when you're part of, unfortunately, a diaspora of people who are spread out across the world. Yeah. You've been so used to having your siblings close to you, or your cousins, or your, the larger extension of your family close to you. And then you grow up and everybody's dispersed.
Correct.
And it suddenly feels sad.
Yeah.
That I know that there are members of my family that I've probably met for the last time.
Wow. Yeah, that's a sad thought.
It's a sad thought.
Yeah.
Like my aunts and uncles and elder people within my family, I know that there is very little chance that I'll probably meet them ever again. Wow. It's just sad.
It's hard to think about.
It is. And also to think about, now I look at my children, for them to have to grow up, I know that they would have to grow up without that circle of cousins around them, that extended family. They would never get the love or the affection that I got maybe from my uncles or aunts.
Correct.
Growing up.
Yeah.
They would never be able to experience it the same way. Yeah. And it's just sad.
It is, because you know how much of an influence they had on you growing up, and you kind of wanted to be on your kids. I know that exactly, and it worries me when I have a kid, like in the future, inshallah. Growing with a family is beautiful, like the influence of your aunts, your grandparents. What can you do?
How do you think? Think your background and your culture has an impact on your art that you create?
One of the things you messaged me about and what we touched on is like how ethnicities, how like a different background affects art. In my company in Hazen, like everyone that works there, we have like around 8 people. Everyone's from a different culture, like every single person. And it's not by choice, it just happened because that's just the culture we have.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing as this conversation. When we both grow up with different perspectives, we're able to look at things from a different way. And when it comes to art, you're trying to communicate a message, to convince someone of something, or to share a message from that perspective. And the audience has a different perspective. So I think growing up with the culture that we grew up in, it's just people here, or like the audience, they just have a different perspective, and I'm able to share that with them. Does that make sense? It's a bit complicated, but when we share 2 different backgrounds, and even though we're from similar backgrounds, we both have a different idea or ideology of a certain topic. Yeah. And when it comes together, it's a beautiful thing that then relates to the audience. Yeah. It's good. Yeah. It helps. Yeah. It really helps. Yeah.
What do you think some of the biggest influences are on the way that you create videos? Art. How would you describe your art? Would you say it's specifically just videography?
No. It's I try to be as flexible as I can. Like, it's not just video. It's messaging. It's because we provide different services, and I work across different fields, design, everything. So I try to just culminate it in art. Biggest influences, you said? Honestly, it's the people that I meet, because I try to be as genuinely curious about everyone I meet. And I think within everyone, obviously, like, biggest influences would be family and people you look up to, like Christopher Nolan. Those are like my favorite directors. Yeah. But I often get inspired and learn from people. And that's one of the biggest things that I've learned across the past 10 years that I tried to apply, which is just being genuinely curious about everyone, like this conversation or anyone else, because there's so much to learn, and you apply it to your artwork. I mean, that's how directors work. That's how storytelling is.
That's also one of the inspirations I had for starting this podcast, is that I realized every person that you meet knows something that you do not.
Yeah, exactly. So much. Yeah.
Every person that you meet.
Correct.
And it doesn't matter where they come from or how educated they are or how successful they are.
Correct.
Or anybody.
Yeah.
Everybody knows something that you have no idea about.
Yeah.
And what that creates is it creates an opportunity for you to broaden your own horizon and try to understand. It's also a very humbling feeling, because it grounds you in the reality how small and how insignificant you are. Yeah. No matter how bloated your ego might get, that always kind of humbles you. It grounds you.
Yeah. You know? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I found that with the people I meet, like when I was talking to Bassem, he was just as humble as us here, and he was just as curious. And I think just being humble, especially when you're at that stage when you can have the ego, because you can justify it. It's better, you know. It's nicer, and I think that's what gets you to the biggest stages in life and success.
You know, when Bassem was touring over here, obviously after the interview with Piers Morgan, he became like a worldwide sensation overnight, right?
Correct.
My wife was like, "Oh, Bassem's in Australia. Why don't you interview him?" I was like, "I wish, I could." I mean, I'm sure like he'd be getting chased by all kind of media outlets for just 5 minutes of conversation. I was like, "There's no way I'd be able to get him at the moment. Maybe at some point, you know, someday." But I was like. So I was actually searching through Bassem's stuff. Yeah. That's where I stumbled upon you.
Right. Okay. Nice.
You know, and I was really impressed with the video cut that you did.
Thank you.
Him.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
So did he reach out to you, or did you approach him? How did that happen?
No, I never imagined it. I mean, I know him from before because you come across him. Here's the thing: connections is everything, and you never know where a connection comes from. Yeah. That was like my biggest lesson in 2023. It came from a wonderful connection of someone that I met 4 years ago. She was an incredible person that I've helped on like a few video projects. Yeah. And I never really thought like a connection like Bassem would come from that, if that makes sense. But she knows him, and when he was coming to Australia, he was looking for someone. Yeah. And she was kind enough and generous enough to recommend me. So then when she recommended me to Bassem, obviously he has a manager. Manager reached out to me, had a call, and then after that, Bassem had to vet me through, and he liked the work, and then we started working together. And
so, what was the idea? Like, did he say that he wanted somebody to just
he just asked around his tour? Yeah. So he had 9 shows across Australia. So not just document, but also capture all of them. So he needed a video production agency. He's never, he's never done it in Australia, and he's not going to fly someone from his country because it needs needs a lot of people, cameras, and everything. So the first thing people do is they ask. They don't really go on Google. They don't really go on social media. They just ask around. Yeah. And if you're always at the front of mind of someone else and you get recommended, it is the most powerful marketing tool. Word of mouth, right? Yeah. And then it's up to you to convert it, to bring the value. And basically, he asked me just to cover the events. The documentary that we released was just an added bonus that I told him, please let me do this, because I know I can do something good. Yeah. And when you have 9 days with this guy and you drive him around and you're so close to him, I was basically shadowing him. Yeah. You just capture a lot of good footage.
Oh, of course.
Like we had over 6 hours of footage.
Yeah.
And, over the 5 years that I've worked, I've kind of developed a good sense of shooting style, the camera style, like the actual film gear that I have brings beautiful imagery. So I'm lucky to have that. And we just did Gold Coast and then Sydney and Melbourne, and I just shadowed him. Yeah.
Amazing. What an amazing opportunity.
It was.
And how did you find the guy?
How did I find him? Like, how was he?
How was he as a person?
Yeah. Man, it was surprising. Like, I've never met someone before of that size or caliber. And at the end of the day, he's just as humble, as normal as everyone else. Yeah. And that was like insightful to me.
He does come across that way.
He is. But he's also very intelligent. That's what I found with him. And everything he does meticulously is for a specific purpose. And I learned a lot from him, man. It's crazy. And yeah.
Yeah, but you definitely utilize the footage really well.
Yeah,
like,
man, I hope so.
I'll post a link to that Bassem Youssef video that you did.
Yeah.
It'll be in the description for this video. Do check that out. Like, I came across that video. I was like, this guy created this. I want to have a conversation with this guy.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
And it came from a conversation with him. Like he was telling me of his, because before a show, he's so confident and he does it like. It's like a factory, the way he does it. He's so good at like performing at the thing. But then when you see him backstage, the way his creative process is, and when we spoke about it, there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of internalization of like fear and everything else. And we just spoke about why don't we bring that to the stage? Why don't we show it? Because it's relatable to people. It's humbling.
The vulnerability.
Yeah, the vulnerability. And it's, kudos to him for allowing that, because it's an interesting perspective that not many artists try to show.
Yeah.
You try to show your best self.
Of course.
But technically that is your best self because it's you. So...
Yeah, I guess being a comic, it's also that you can't be all the best comics out there are the ones who open themselves up to vulnerability, who open themselves up to ridicule.
Correct.
You can't be a good comic unless you're authentically yourself.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you can't.
That's something.
So he's amazing.
No, really nice, really nice. So I've seen a lot of the other stuff that Hazen has been doing. Your Out of Bounds series, I really love that.
Thank you, man.
Yeah,
appreciate it. Yeah.
The concept, like, what I found with Out of Bounds was that essentially, in those clips, what you're trying to do is essentially what I'm trying to do with the podcast.
Correct.
You're trying to tell stories of people who are coming from different backgrounds.
Yeah.
And you're trying to show this small window into their world.
Yeah.
About what they do and why they do it.
Absolutely. You're exactly right. It's a different, it's kind of different execution, but similar message.
How did Out of Bounds come about?
Yeah, man. Thank you. It's a great question. Look, it's the same thing as you. I wanted to see... To be honest with you, it was an excuse because I wanted to meet certain people, and it still is.
Yeah.
And to like show my work to them, because there's a lot of great people out there. Obviously, people that I inspire to meet, and as I told you, connections is very important. So I wanted to grow my network, but also at the same time provide value. So I was thinking, us and the team, what's one way we can do that whilst also becoming a more specific creative agency, because there's so many agencies out there.
Of course.
Which is fine, it's good, but it's all about standing out. Yeah. So we put all our resources into this idea of let's develop a mini series that we can continue doing, where we explore different stories of those that are making their own path. And we don't limit it to artists, because like I genuinely believe everyone has an art within themselves. Like even you're an engineer, but you're still trying to do this. And I'm sure within your engineering background as well, there's a lot of things that you do that are more creative than others. So if you saw in the 10 episodes we did, is one of them, his name is Ibi Mubadar. He owns multiple chains of restaurants.
Yes.
You wouldn't classify him as a artist director, but he's an incredible artist.
But that's an incredible story.
It is, right? Yeah, it is. It's an incredible story. So we're doing a season 2 now, and Bassem kind of kicked us off with the first big episode.
Yeah.
There's a lot more interesting people coming, and definitely I'll share it with you soon. We're shooting everything in Feb. Again, everything is self-funded. We're not even looking for sponsors. It's more of a passion project that allows me and allows the team to capture those people that we get inspired by and share it to everyone else.
So, like you said, it's not funded or anything. And mostly you just do it out of your own curiosity.
Correct.
And like you said, you have a huge team. I can see in the credits over there.
Thank you.
You've got editors and everything. And obviously the gear that you're using, it's not cheap.
Thank you.
Right? It's really sophisticated gear.
Thank you.
So what I want to try and understand is how do you work with the economics of all of this? How does that work?
Everything comes from the Hazen work and the Dore to the two businesses. So we offer specific services, and any profit I make, I try to like put it back into the company, if that makes sense. So economically, what that means is we provide really good services to clients, and over the years it's kind of changed as well. Like we used to do services that we don't offer anymore, and we've kind of niched down into what we do best. And try to make money from that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So would you say that Dore is the main earner, considering that Dore, for people who don't know, Dore is his other agency where he primarily does wedding shoots and special occasion events for people.
It's and weddings,
those. I'll leave a link for Dore down in the description as well. I've seen some of the work that Dore has done, but that again is very authentically captured the way that you try to showcase a couple or a family.
Correct.
The way that they are. So I'm assuming that is the money pot basically.
No, it's Hazen.
It's Hazen.
Yeah. Surprisingly, like Hazen is a lot better than Dore. Dore is still great. I'll tell you the story of Dore because it's like just a weekend thing, and it's fun. But the reason why everyone's trying to make it, right, as you said, and after university, I worked with a few agencies, and I just saw the work that they do, and it's like, hey, I can do that, right?
Yeah.
And started from zero, obviously, started with, friends and family and people that you work with, tried to offer everything at once as an agency, like everything.
Yeah.
Like, I'll do your ads, I'll do your SEO,
Just
I'll do your websites.
Work.
Just bring me the work, and I try to work with different professionals overseas.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing I found with Hazen is niche down is way better, and just have a focus in terms of the work that you do and provide value above all. You can't offer everything at once. You're not a huge company that can afford it, and you don't have the talent, because talent is the biggest thing. And the reason why Hazen is doing well now is because we have great talent. So we basically focus on now just doing amazing design and film for companies and businesses. And we work with a lot of charities, work a lot of businesses and those kind of stuff. And then obviously through that funding, we try to do Out of Bounds is almost like our creative outlet, if that makes sense.
I get that.
Yeah, because obviously when you work with corporate and businesses, still there's a lot of creative projects, and I enjoy it.
Yeah.
But it's more geared towards the client's needs.
Yeah, of course.
Which is fine.
But I mean, you have to do those projects.
Of course.
One for the money, two for the show, right?
Yeah, exactly. One for the money, two for the show.
Yeah.
And I love them.
Yeah, so you have to do those projects to be able to do the work that you want to do.
Correct. And both, I actually love both, because the biggest thing I also tell everyone that I work with, and they all agree, we're in a profession like film and design, where you can work with so many different industries so closely to the CEO, to the marketing director. You're working with the people at the top. And some of these companies are multi-million-dollar companies in different industries. Some are in disability, some are in finance. And it makes you understand a lot more, because you have to be close to the company and their ethics, because you need to communicate the message.
Yeah.
So being able to be across, I think I've done basically every industry so far, because we have over 120 clients that we've worked with, different industries, and you learn so much.
Of course.
It's incredible. So I love that more than anything, because then I can apply it to the real world. And that's how we're Out of Bounds is kind of evolving.
Yeah.
It's not industry specific.
One thing I noticed about the stuff that you guys make with Hazen, you guys are filmmakers, but you're not necessarily making film or movies in the way that you're trying to show fictional stories.
It's more doco.
It's more doco. Kind of stuff, right?
Yes.
So is that something that came about by chance, or was that on purpose, or?
It evolves as you're suspecting. You start off, when you think filmmaking, a lot of the students that are trying to make it, you think of movies, you think of Hollywood, and reality is there's so many different forms. And you watch Netflix and you watch YouTube, and there's a lot of documentaries that we consume and enjoy. Some of them aren't even beautifully shot, but they're incredible and they last with us.
Yeah, because the content is.
The content, the message. So it kind of evolved into that, because obviously documentary shoots, it doesn't need hundreds of people. It doesn't need huge production, which we don't have at the moment. Maybe in the future we want to do it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a interesting way to tell a story, and it's just as effective for businesses.
Yeah, because what I found interesting was that aesthetics-wise, you guys are up there.
Thank you.
Honestly, the production quality and the editing, the quality of the editing, the quality of the gear that you guys are using, it's up there with proper filmmaking, right?
Yeah, thank you.
Yet you use all of that and leverage that in a documentary style production, right?
Yeah.
So that was the question. Is that something that you're sticking to, something that you feel that you're stronger at?
Yeah.
Or is it just something that you never viewed filmmaking the way the filmmaking that movies are?
Great question, and I think also great analysis in terms of how you've related it.
Yeah.
It's all again, related to your question, it's all because everything is accessible now. It's just like the way you told me about your post-production for these videos. That process that you use right now wouldn't have been possible 5 years ago.
Yes.
Same thing as us.
Yes.
The reason why everything feels so cinematic is also thanks to the equipment, and it's also very accessible. So the cameras we bought, surprisingly, not many people go out there and buy it, but it's actually a very good price. It's like 10, 15K. It's called an RE camera, and it's that same camera, Life of Pi, the movie, same camera was shot on that.
Okay.
Same movie was shot on that, and it's one of the best leading cameras. Prosumer cameras are kind of in a similar price point, maybe a bit less, but you spend a bit more. It's a bit harder to work with because it's heavy, but you get that process, and you get color grading, as you said. DaVinci is free. People are learning more and more. YouTube is easier to learn on. So I think accessibility is what allows us to kind of form our own way of shooting and way of delivering. And a lot of people are doing it in the industry, but it's just more accessible now.
10 years ago, when I was in university, I did a few short videos for a promotional event that we were doing in university. That was the first time I ever did video editing in my life.
Wow.
And I was using After Effects.
Oh yeah,
in
to
that
edit a
case,
video.
to edit a video,
Yeah,
right?
must have been tough.
It must have been tough because you're doing something for the first time, and especially you've studied science and engineering all your life, and suddenly you're video editing. It's completely different.
Correct.
But at the same time, I completely fell in love with it.
Yeah, right.
You know,
yeah,
I loved it. It like I was pulling my hair out because something was not working out. But then when you see the finished result, like you love it.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say is that 10 years ago I was using After Effects.
Right.
It was complicated.
Yeah.
Now when I started editing for this, I went in. I just did a basic Google search of what softwares I could use, and Blackmagic Design came up, and I was using now I'm using that one.
Yeah.
But the point is the amount of capability that they stuff into these programs now.
Unreal.
And to think that it's free.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even the basic version of After Effects, like you can use that for free, basically, right?
You don't need it.
And the amount of capability, the color grading, the effects that they've put into that, plus a lot of the free overlay, the LUTs that you can get for free online, the lower thirds you can get, the text and everything effects, like it's amazing.
Incredible value.
What you can create.
Yeah. It is, and I'm a huge fan of Blackmagic. I mean, it's an Australian company. We have one of their cameras, the Pocket 6K.
Yeah.
Bassem's shoot was actually mainly on the Pocket camera.
Really?
Yeah, because I needed a camera that I can travel with.
That you could carry around.
Yeah, and it's so small and compact. And you don't notice the difference, by the way. Like between the shots that was shot on RE and Blackmagic, you can't tell the difference. Yeah, they made such a good product that you can't stop talking about. It's incredible.
And I also felt that, especially with videos such as Bassem's or the stuff that you do, you rely on the basic quality of the shot on the equipment, but it's in the hands of the editor at the end of the day.
Yeah, always.
That is what makes or breaks the shot.
100%. You're on point.
Yeah.
I'm a bad editor.
Are you?
I'm a bad editor. I can't. It's so hard for me because if I had to do the Bassem one, I mean, it's 6 hours. It needs a specific kind of mentality. And Cristobal, who's like the one who edited the video, he can sit and listen to those 6 hours and choose the best parts. That's not hard. I mean, sorry, that's not easy. It's very, very hard.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I struggle.
Yeah. That's happened to me as well. Like editing some parts of the podcast, like you're listening to the same part over and over and over.
And you want to choose, you become over analytical. It's better to bring a third person that didn't shoot it. Yeah,
it is. Yeah, it is for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
Coming back to your story, then.
Yes, sir.
Okay. When did you actually start Hazen?
Yeah, started about 4.5 years ago, something like that. Yeah,
and was it just yourself who started it?
Started with friends as well at university, and we all had our different paths after, because you start, you have similar vision, and then you venture out, and everyone is great. But at the moment, it's us and like the wonderful team that we've kind of gotten to meet. Man, it's tough. It's a tough journey.
It is.
Yeah.
Sure.
I love it. I learned so much in those 4.5 years, more than university.
Yeah, of course. And you learn so much, with every single project that you do.
Correct.
There's so much learning. Maybe I should try doing it this way. Maybe I should edit. Maybe I should tweak this or tweak that a little bit.
And it evolves, as you said, it tweaks and you find out that at the moment what I'm finding with Hazen, it's beyond what just filmmaking and art and design. It's also about entrepreneurship. It's about meeting different people and communicating their message.
Yeah.
And then Dore was just on the side because at a similar point, I had to do my brother's wedding, like 4 years ago. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I also grew up watching my family's, VHS old tape wedding. I'm sure you remember yours. And then in the wedding market right now, what we found 4 years ago is there's a room for more authentic storytelling and also like those kind of raw storytelling videos. And, I'm young, weekends are free, pays well, and it's fun to do. So then we started Dore as well for weekends, and it's been really fun. Yeah.
In terms of like your editing inspiration and everything, like I asked, like are there any directors that you look up to, like Christopher Nolan, like you said, and you covered James Cameron?
Yeah.
How did the James Cameron interview come up?
Good question. James Cameron, same thing. I mean, it's from a wonderful producer that I've worked with in the past, and then she works at a company, and then they were getting James Cameron for an event, and then they were like, "Hey, are you free to cover the event? And let's do it." Man, it was surreal because like it comes out of nowhere, and then in 2 weeks you're meeting the guy, you're covering him, and you get so worried, obviously, because he's the GOAT when it comes to in the film industry.
Yeah,
and he was full of incredible advice, and we're gonna release a lot more videos about the thing that he did. And so much advice stuck out to me in terms of how he's made it in the industry. Yeah. And Yeah, it was incredible. It was so surreal meeting him.
Did you get to do like a Bassem Youssef style video with him?
No, he was too busy because he had so many different things. But what we did do is we covered his whole 1 hour thing, 1 hour talk, and we're gonna release some more of the stuff that he did. It was just like a private event kind of thing. And man, yeah, he's incredible, genuinely.
Yeah, I'm sure there's stuff that you would have gotten to learn off of him. Yeah, just brain picking off of his. Right.
It was. Yeah, so it was so surreal.
Although personally, I wouldn't rate him in my top 5.
Yeah,
directors.
fair enough.
Like he's James Cameron is the guy who's made the biggest blockbusters in the world.
He did. Yeah.
I wouldn't rate him that high as an aesthetic filmmaker.
Yeah, fair enough.
I wouldn't.
I get it.
But yeah, in terms of how he has the ability to create, like I said, blockbusters on how a thing is supposed to look on screen, that would just completely blow the audience away.
It's a great point.
Yeah.
It's a great point. The way I see him as well, he doesn't even, I don't think he identifies himself as a filmmaker in general. He's, in my opinion, he's more of a pioneer.
Yeah.
He's more of an entrepreneur than anything. And the way I say that is because look at the things he's achieved. I mean, he's been to the deepest point in the ocean, in the world. That was just a side project, and he worked in Australia. He worked in Leichhardt in here with his Aussie team because I saw his documentary, Deep Point or something like that.
The Abyss.
The Abyss, yeah, something. Yeah, it was beautiful doco. And what else did he do? Like even with the filmmaking, with Avatar, the way he's done Avatar 2, and the way he challenges the way it's shot, the way the VFX works, being in the ocean. And during the interview, he was talking about the creation of that. And the biggest thing that I love about what he said is, when he was pitching the idea of Avatar 2, how can we get people to swim in the water and capture them? And a lot of people are saying, the way it's been done is, you put ropes and you get people to kind of be in the air, suspended.
Behind a green screen, yeah.
And then he's like, has it ever been captured underwater where real actors are like, actually doing this? And people are like, no, that's impossible. And he's like, all right, done, we're going to do that.
Yeah.
And it's that like, that confidence to go after it, and anything is possible.
Yep.
It's so motivating, right? So I like it. So for me, he's more of a pioneer.
Yeah. What I do like about James Cameron is that he likes to take his time with every project.
Yeah.
Like he would take
years.
He would take 10 years between projects.
Correct.
But he would come up with something that is worth the wait.
And he'll put all his effort into it.
Yeah, that's what I like about it. You know, it's interesting. He's actually an engineer by qualification.
Yeah, he is.
He is. I think he's done something
submarines
in physics or something.
He did. So that's the thing. It's not even just a filmmaker.
Yeah, he's not. He's not really a filmmaker.
No.
By qualification.
It's incredible. It's like his side gig.
So speaking of which, like, top
3 movies.
Top 3 movies. Top 3 directors.
All right. I have a good list, and I thought about it for a long time, and I want to hear your answer as well.
Yeah, good shot.
One of the best ones that stood out to me is Paul Thomas Anderson's There Will Be Blood. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. It's like back in 2008.
Yeah, I've seen it.
And the reason why I love it is like, he's my favorite actor, Daniel Day-Lewis. And
Daniel Day-Lewis,
he's the best.
Of
right?
course. So Daniel Day-Lewis, for me, Gangs of New York.
Yeah, Not many people rate him though. He's not as popular. Yeah.
For Gangs of New York.
In Gangs of New York, he is popular, but like in general as an actor, he doesn't come at most people's tops list.
I guess that's anybody like you and I who would dissect a movie,
we would choose
or dissect a scene.
Yeah,
I would rate him right up there, mate.
He's amazing.
He's one of the best guys to. If I had to pick anybody to deliver a monologue, that'd be Daniel Day-Lewis.
Exactly.
Any day.
Incredible.
Any day.
Incredible. So that movie, I'm gonna give you 4 because last year's favorite movies would be Killers of the Flower Moon by Martin Scorsese.
I haven't seen it yet.
Incredible. Yeah. Like Leonardo was amazing, but it's more the direction of Martin Scorsese, and to be doing it at the age that he is, what an incredible
for doing it as long as he has been.
Oh my God, he's so consistent.
Yeah,
that movie was such a strong, sad, tragic story.
Yeah,
and I loved like real like and Oppenheimer. I would say like I saw it in 5 different cinemas across Australia, and it's one of my favorite. Last one I would say, I love Inception. I don't know why, I just really like Inception as well, and Shawshank Redemption. 5. Yeah, that's 5 movies. How about you?
Okay. In terms of movies, okay. In no particular order. This is not a rating, right? But in no particular order, Interstellar.
Yeah, right.
Interstellar, for the scale of the idea that was being portrayed on screen, and to be able to portray that in a way that the audience can actually see that what's going on. Yeah, Interstellar. Gladiator. I loved Gladiator.
Love the music in Gladiator.
It's the music, the production, the detail and design, the way it's shot.
Yeah.
Russell Crowe, I mean, with all due respect to him, I wouldn't rate him that high as an actor, but Gladiator was the movie that he was born to play.
Yeah.
You know,
movie.
Russell Crowe.
Yeah.
And Joaquin Phoenix, obviously.
Yeah,
I hated Joaquin Phoenix after Gladiator.
Yeah,
but then I realized that is a testimony of how good an actor he
I really hated him as well at the time. Yeah. Incredible.
I love anything that Wes Anderson does.
Yeah, right.
I love Wes Anderson's work.
Do you like the Grand Budapest? Is that your favorite?
I love Grand Budapest. Yeah. I think I've seen Grand Budapest like 3 or 4 times.
Beautiful.
Separately.
Yeah.
And I've seen almost all his films because his films are they're not too they're not. I wouldn't. His films are complicated.
Yeah.
Like you lose track of the plot.
Yeah.
If you take your eye off of it, right?
Yeah.
But his films are so easy to digest.
Yeah.
They're fun.
And beautiful as well.
They're beautiful. The way I would say that his films, the way he shoots them, the way he tells a story, it's akin to art.
Yeah.
It's art.
It's number one,
his use of pastels in every single frame. Every single frame is so meticulously and so, I would always say it's burgeoning on OCD.
Yeah,
The way he designs every single line of, like, if there's a pencil on the table, like it's supposed to be a proper 90-degree angle to the screen and everything.
It's incredible.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And the cast that he works with.
Yeah, huge.
He creates an ensemble of people. And to be able to see people portray characters in his movies that they're not usually portraying in other movies. For Bruce Willis. And have you seen
Die Hard? Or?
No. Die Hard, of course. Have you seen, what was this Wes Anderson movie? Moonrise Kingdom.
No, I haven't seen it.
Moonrise Kingdom was amazing.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was amazing. It was the movie he did just before he did Grand Budapest.
Right.
Yeah. And, and it was beautiful. He worked with child actors in there, and it was a really beautiful movie. Ed Norton as well. I love Ed Norton.
Edward, yeah.
I love Ed Norton. Because Ed Norton he does such gritty and serious movies, but then he does something so silly and so fun in Moonrise Kingdom.
And it suits him.
Yeah. I love Wes Anderson movies.
Oh, incredible.
Yeah. And Martin Scorsese.
Yeah.
Martin Scorsese, simply for the length and the breadth of what he's done. Like Martin Scorsese, Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
And then Gangs of New York. Wow. And then Goodfellas. And all like so different and so unique. And I love the fact that he brings such a unique look to every movie that he does.
Yeah. I highly recommend, if you're such a big fan of him, watch his masterclass on Masterclass.
Really?
Yeah, I watched it because I subscribe to the app. It's a good app to learn. And you just get a perspective of, it's like a 3-hour documentary of him. Actually, not a documentary, it's a class where he just teaches you.
Yeah.
And he approaches every project with, like, he puts everything in it. And it's all unique. He's just, so talented, man. I don't know how you become like that. I wish I could become like that.
Yeah, it gets to a point that, you can't understand how somebody is that big.
Yeah.
Like, what would it be like to just spend a day as Martin Scorsese, to step in their shoes? Just imagine the kind of people that you'd be ringing up, the kind of people ringing you, the kind of scripts and the kind of producers who are calling you that, hey, would you direct this?
Yeah.
And the thing, like you mentioned with his age, you never really know what the last Martin Scorsese movie is going to be.
Yeah.
When he's going to retire or anything.
Well, I've heard in his acceptance speech for the Killers of the Flower Moon, he wants to do one more with Daniel Day-Lewis. And he was trying to convince him, because Daniel Day-Lewis was there and he gave him the award. I just hope to see one more collaboration, because then that's kind of your dream come true. Gangs of New York.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Although Daniel Day-Lewis's last one, I think it was called 10 Threads or something like that. He
the fashion guy.
The fashion guy. Like, I didn't like that one as such. I did not like that one.
No.
He was good in Lincoln. I mean, obviously one for Lincoln.
Incredible.
Lincoln, right? Although, I mean,
Lincoln
I did not like because I like timepieces.
Yeah.
Like Gangs of New York.
Yeah.
But I like fiction timepieces. Not like, okay, they're telling the story of Lincoln
specifically
as Lincoln. I get it. I didn't particularly enjoy it as such.
Me too. Lincoln was hard to follow.
Yeah, it was hard to follow. But and Daniel Day-Lewis, like you said, There Will Be Blood.
Yeah.
And Gangs of New York. I think Daniel Day-Lewis is at his absolute best when he is portraying a maniac.
Yeah, right.
You're right. Yeah, when he is portraying somebody who is absolutely unhinged.
Yeah.
Like at the end of There Will Be Blood, he starts off as a guy who's corrupt but not as corrupt, and then towards the end he just goes full blown maniac.
Yeah.
But
I don't know if you've seen My Left Foot. He was incredible in there as well. It's a very old movie in the 70s, and I think he portrays someone with cerebral palsy, and who has a disability. And it's not a maniac. He's just a great methodical, I don't know.
Method actor.
Yeah, method actor.
Yeah.
But again, it depends on the director you work with as well. Because if it depends on the story you work with, so it's hard.
Yeah. One guy I wish would have done more method acting or would have gotten more props for his acting is Hugh Jackman.
Right.
You know why?
Yeah.
Because you watch Hugh Jackman in a lot of the thing is that the character of Wolverine has kind of consumed Hugh Jackman in such a way that he is Wolverine.
True.
People have a hard time disassociating Hugh Jackman from Wolverine.
Which is very hard as an actor to be. Yeah.
It's very hard because I mean, he's done it so well and he's done it for so long.
Yeah.
He is Wolverine.
Yeah.
Right?
Which is fun. Yeah.
But if you go about and watch, the one with Christopher Nolan and Christian Bale.
The Prestige.
The Prestige.
Yeah.
Right? You watch The Prestige.
He's incredible.
Or there was a rom-com he did with Meg Ryan called Kate and Leopold.
I haven't seen it. Yeah.
Right? So what I'm trying to say is that Hugh Jackman is one actor, I believe, who had such acting depth.
Yeah.
He could portray Leopold and he could portray or like The Greatest Showman, for example.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Greatest Showman. And he can sing. He can do so much stuff.
So talented.
I think Hugh Jackman deserved a lot better scripts or a lot better movie opportunities than he got throughout his career.
Correct. It's the people you know and the people that kind of stick with you.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, but he's still very he's a gem.
Yeah.
Hugh Jackman. People love him.
Yeah, even off screen he's really cool.
Yeah.
I love him.
Yeah. I wish I could meet him sometime.
Yeah, me too, man.
Yeah.
I have my friend, I was catching up with him yesterday. He also does weddings and he saw him at a cafe a few weeks ago.
Really?
And I said hello to him. He's Aussie. He's here.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
He has a cafe in Melbourne.
Oh,
He has a number of cafes in Melbourne.
Oh, I didn't know. Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, he's big on coffee.
Oh, right.
He loves his coffee.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I'll go to one of his cafes.
Yeah. So,
Yes,
in terms of like Hazen and Dore and
Yeah.
everything else that you're doing, so what other stuff is coming up in the next few months or weeks or years?
Yeah.
What else do you have in the pipeline?
At the moment this year, what we're trying to do is we're trying to do more documentary series in that field and hopefully to get some backing from one of the streaming services, hopefully. So Bassem is one that we're trying to work on something in there in terms of finding that connection and working on like a more feature-length documentary. So that's one thing. And also just reaching out and trying to work with people that I love working with and grew up watching. For example, one composer, I'm not sure if you've heard of him, he's kind of like Hans Zimmer, but his name is Ludovico Inwadi. He's I probably butchered his name. He's an Italian pianist.
Okay.
And he's coming to Sydney Opera House. I'm sure you've heard his music. His music is like in most movies.
Okay.
And we're trying to contact through Sydney Opera House and his agents to try to cover that event. So it's doing more projects like Out of Bounds and growing that further. And we have some more people in the pipeline to do that. So hopefully more of that.
Interesting.
Yeah, bro.
Interesting. I love Hans Zimmer.
Yeah, I've been to his concert twice.
I wish I had just arrived in Australia the year when he did his last concert here in Sydney.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to go to that one.
No.
Like for a number of different reasons. But
the one in Sydney Olympic Park back in 2000. Yeah, I went to, it was amazing.
Yeah, I wish I could. Like,
it was huge.
There have been times when I've put... there's a YouTube video of his Milan show that he did.
Yeah.
That's the most famous one.
Yeah. I remember seeing it.
With his full-on orchestra and his entire crew. Like, I've watched that end to end. Like, there used to be times when I used to just put that on and just leave it on in the background.
It's perfect to work to.
Love Hans Zimmer. Yeah. I want to watch him once, at least in my life. I want to watch him once.
You will.
Live.
You will.
Yeah. Anyways. So, Mustafa, once again, thanks for coming in.
My pleasure.
Interesting conversation. I believe there's a lot more conversation to be had.
Absolutely.
Hopefully we can back that up with Mustafa Allawi part 2 or part 3
Inshallah,
in the gap.
Yeah,
a lot more stuff that we can talk about.
Thank you.
Just before I let you go,
Yes,
there's one final question that I always pitch to all of my guests and everything. So based on all of your experiences, based on your entire life growing up in Iraq, living through a war in this century, moving with your family through to Jordan, coming into Australia, growing up in Australia, having that culture shock, and then going into a field that is not something that is familiar to your family or your background.
Thank you.
And now coming out the other end, thriving in it.
Thank you.
Right?
Appreciate it, man.
I mean, loving the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Based on all of that and the trajectory that you're going on, what is the one nugget of truth that life has taught you that you can pass on to people?
It's an amazing question to end on always, and I thought about this hard. To be honest with you, through all my experiences, there's one thing that I learned. It's to always bring real value to people, no matter what you do. And genuinely being curious about them and just bring real value. It's less about you, it's more about the people you meet, always. So every conversation I have through all my experiences, I always try to put the other person more in mind and to see how I can provide any value that I can. I think if we do that and we continue to do that, we'll live a happier life and people around us will be happier. So that's the one truth that I've learned the hard way, and it's helping a lot with everything, business and also personal relationships.
Perfect.
Thank you.
I guess that's an amazing point to end on. And for all of you guys who enjoyed the podcast, if you enjoyed this, I'll put a link for Mustafa's Instagram, Hazen's Instagram, their website, Dore's Instagram, their website, all of the stuff that he's been up to in the description for this video. Do check that out. These guys are doing some amazing work. For the amount of time that they've spent in the industry, I honestly feel that the quality of the production and the product that they're putting out, it's phenomenal.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I wish you all the power and all the success in the future. And I hope to see Hazen doing docos, full-length documentaries up on Netflix.
Thank you so much. And inshallah, one day I'll do a doc on you and in the gap. I'm sure we will.
Inshallah.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Right. And for all of you, if you guys have not done so already, here's all of our social media platforms. All of the highlights from this conversation and from all of my past conversations are going to be up there. If you haven't already, do check that out. It's really shareable content. And until next time, this has been In The Gap. I've been Hassan, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.